Okay, here comes the video on Saturday, the 12th of April 2025. Just gone 11:03 p.m. Chicago time. Do hope you are doing well. So it's the weekend, time for another weekend futures market recap. We'll go through 15 of the largest futures markets and I'll show you what I'm seeing on my charts. It continues the unbelievable ranges that we have seen, and I will in fact bring up this quick chart that I look at every day, and here it is. It shows us the range in points of the day session of the E-mini. And if you were trading this week, this is what you felt. Here we go. We reached, I thought this was going to be the peak in terms of volatility of 419.5 points during the day session. And then no, we went to 540 points. That was the reversal of the Trump tariffs. So we have had a week of extreme volatility. So yeah, it's just off the charts in terms of what we've seen in the past. It's good and bad. The professionals need this volatility to accumulate, and so they like it because the volumes going through are absolutely massive. So it works for them, but it scares the bejesus out of everybody else who's trading. The margins have cranked way up on the E-mini, not so much on some of the other futures contracts, but the E-mini is now super expensive to trade relative to 2 weeks ago. So here we go. We're going to go through the E-mini charts first, and then we're going to go to the tick bar charts for each of the major futures markets. And I am looking for a low around here after we hit this 5,000 number on the E-mini, but it's going to take some time to work out. We were at 5,600 starting to form a base because we had formed pullback to end of trends in a bunch of time frames as we went down through the time frames, and that low was setting in, and then when it broke, we have to do all of that work again. We have to put in the pullback to end of trends across all of the different time frames, lowest building up to the highest, in order for that energy, that end of trending energy, to be over and done with, and then it can be constructive on the way up. And there's big ranges to be traded in the meantime, so it's not just waiting our hands until the low is absolutely in. But let me just show you. So this is why I am positive at the moment, is because the background's in blue, the bars are in blue, we've had our exhaustion sell bullish divergence, the momentum reads are neutral-ish, but they're not extreme down here. So there's some accumulation happening in all of this volatility to make that momentum read neutral-ish. So that's important. But when you look at the sine wave chart here on the daily, we're through supports on the low and the intermediate time frame, and we're below resistance on the highest time frame, have not put in pullback to end of trends. So all of this is white, the bars are white, showing we're in a downtrend. And at some point, we'll need to come back. For example, here, we're starting to make this move. We'll need to come back to 100 with these thin lines here on better sine wave, cross, and that'll be our pullback to end of trend. So once that pattern goes in on the daily, then all of this is over and it's clearer sailing from then. But until that's done, we just have to put in all of those backwards and forwards patterns on all the time frames until that downward energy is worked out. So 135-minute chart, the next time frame down. So these were good 2 weeks ago at 5,600, but now we've only got a couple of blue professional bars down here. The read's all positive, but we had our exhaustion sell bullish divergence flush patterns back here. We've got to go see them on this move down. So we're going to have a retrace, and then from there we're going to drop back down. Who knows where it's going to test down to, but we've got to get some exhaustion sell reading, because this is now looking like the beginning of this move down. That was the exhaustion selling getting the move going, and we've had a nice little retrace here with positive values, but we need to see an exhaustion sell finally flushing this market out. And then here on the better sine wave chart, again, we're below these supports, 1, 2, 3, low, intermediate, and highest time frame, and we've got a cross on the lowest time frame here. There we go. So that'll be a pullback and a downtrend. So we'll go pullback to end of trend on that time frame, the 135-minute chart, and we'll see that in a couple of lower time frame charts. So I think we're reaching a little bit of a maximum at the moment. Maybe we'll get a day of strength Monday and then we'll sell off, but that's important, and we're starting to roll down to put in that testing energy pullback to end of trend, because we don't have any supports down here. We've broken our supports. We need to find them down at these lows. 45-minute chart. Okay, this is better. So we had all of these blue professional bars at 5,600 coming in. Now we've got blue professional bars here. We've still got patterns on the high side here rather than on the downside. and I think all of these bars are going down. We've got some little breaks to the upside, but we're in a downtrend, and this is important. The support on the highest time frame on the 45-minute chart, we need to come back up, find that resistance, and then play down, pull back to end of trend, and that's these thick lines here need to come back up. So we've got the low and the intermediate time frames showing us that we're going to have a push down at some point here, but these have got to come back up, and we'll have another push back down, pull back to end on the 45-minute chart. So at the moment we're just floating back up because we've had extreme selling, but we're going to be testing back down. So that's my call thoughts for the week, and how that plays out, whether Monday, Tuesday lifts a little bit higher and then we come down, but eventually we need to put in those patterns to finish this move off. 15-minute chart here. Let me switch these off. So this is the latest squeeze indicator that we got on. Let's make it a little bit cleaner here. So vertical solid yellow lines are the beginnings and the ends of the week. So this was the crash down through 5600 where we couldn't hold, bang. All the blue professional bars coming at the end of the week. Blue professional bars, backgrounds in blue, so super high average trade size. We bottom down here 4900, and then we have a little bit of a test and a bounce, an exhaustion buy, bearish divergence here, amateur bars here into this resistance, and we're below this super important resistance on the highest time frame, just like this one on the 45-minute, this one on the 15. We've got to go put in pullback to end of trend. We have to start seeing supports, end of trend and supports on the highest time frame below the activity, not above it like this. So on this time frame, the 15-minute, you can see we've had a cross. I mean, we've got crosses on all three time frames. So the low, the intermediate, and the highest time frame almost simultaneously come together. We're just looking for that price confirmation in order to put in those resistance lines. So I think that's coming in early this week. So look for that, and then that'll push down and test into this area again. And then we go to the 13,500 tip bar chart. And the reason why we do that is because it smooths everything out a little bit, having a tip bar chart instead of a minute chart. But, and you'll notice this on all of the charts this week, the length of time effectively that goes from the beginning to the ends of the week with these vertical yellow lines is really extended this week because there was just so much activity going through. And because these are tick bar charts that create a new bar with a little bit of activity, after a big trading week like this week with a super amount of volume and trades are going through, it's really extended in terms of the width of this chart. A time-based chart would be tighter, and you'll see that on all the other tip-based charts that we go through on the futures markets. So here we go. So we sold off, bang, Sunday into Monday morning, 4,900. Then we had a super big bounce. We tested back up here. We reached a squeeze at this point here where everything came together. We came back down again, and then this was the tariff news. And just the professionals just bought it all at that point, forced it back up. Now this level becomes super important. So where the move started off, so what was this level? 5,100. So that's going to be absolutely key. Between 5,000 and 5,100. Holding the fort there is really important because that's where people said, yep, buy everything in the stack, bang, forced us into this change of trend here, backgrounds in red. And we've had, coming into the close on Friday, blue professional up bars into that 5,400 level here, so testing there. And so we're super close. We've trailed the stop up on better pro-am, and potentially after an exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, down on the lows down here, even with this extreme activity, we did not have exhaustion sells down here. Crazy, really. So this is likely to turn at some point, roll over, and we test back down, and that level around the 5,000, 5,100 will be key. Are they going to test that? Are they going to push through it to scare everybody out and then quickly whip it back around again? I don't know, but because that's where they bought it, that's a critical level to maintain. And better sine wave, here we go. We've got cyclical resistance coming in here. So we got it down here. This is what I'm looking for on these higher time frame charts, where all of the support levels are close and they're on the lows. So we go to the 45-minute chart here. They're miles away. They're up here. This is the pattern that we need to see, where everything's coming together. This is a big thing to happen at triples, where the supports, the first time we see supports all come together, and we had a nice little signal here, bang, into that tariff news. And then here we're coming into resistance. All three time frames have found resistance at this point. Well, the highest time frame has yet to come in. Pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame, likely to sync up with cyclical resistance on the highest time frame. We just briefly overshot resistance on the intermediate time frame. So having a resistance come in there on the highest time frame would sync up with those blue professional bars up here and then lead to this drop that I'm expecting on, let's say, the 15-minute chart, where we run pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame. So there we go, long-term bullish, but we just have to work out all of that energy on the downside and test down and down, and until we put in all of those pullback to end of trends on each of these time frames, working up from the lowest time frames to eventually the daily time frame. So it's just going to take some time, but in the meantime, fun trading on a whole bunch of markets. So here we go, we're going to go through the other futures markets, starting with the Forex and the Euro contract here. And here we go, this is this week's activity. And again, I was talking about how wide the distance is between the beginning and the end of the weeks. Normally, on this time frame of 1500 tip bar chart, the Euro, we have about 3 weeks activity in this span. But no, this was 1 week's activity. We bottomed down here at 9.5, 109.5. All of these squeeze patterns. The squeeze pattern just says that all of the support and resistance lines are super close together, and the price is super close to those support and resistance. So we know we're going to break into a trending move after we have the squeeze. But we squeezed for a couple of days down here, had an initial break, we tested again down here, blue professional bars stepping at the lows, and we had a cracker of a rally here. I was long Euro and made 40 pips on this, and it went for 450 pips. So unbelievable. British pound made a similar type move. The Euro with this activity here was just holding and holding at 9.5. We had weakness in the pound from last week down until these lows were made. There was no signal like we had here on the short trade, but we had some exhaustion sell, bullish divergence patterns down here. We had some squeeze patterns with a Rambo here, squeezing, ready for a breakout to an uptrend, and then bang, it just followed into that Euro trade and rallied again. Was at about 3 cents on the British pound, 3.5 cents on the way up. Aussie dollar also rallied, and I had a trade on this week. Not as pretty as the other charts. Again, a huge amount of activity. Look how wide the distances between the vertical solid yellow lines, and down here, yep, we had exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, but no blue professional bars, no Rambo patterns, nothing particularly there. It just followed up with the Euro trade and the British pound strengthening. The Aussie eventually followed along. Thank the Lord, because we were down here last week, I think at 58 something or other, and now we're at 63. So huge moves in the Forex this week. Japanese yen, also a huge amount of trading this week. There's the end of the week, there's the beginning of the week. Down here at the lows, yes, exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, but not a whole bunch of blue professional bars up here. We've had some super high average trade size one here, and it was Rambo patterns into those highs. So this has got to be a little bit weak at this point here. Let's see if the continuation of the downtrend. We've had these big pro bars come in here at the end of the week. So looking for a break 69.50 to see if this is rolling over to the downside. Let's just look at another chart here, which is the, here we go. This is our better sine wave on this time frame, and you can see here pullback to end of trend on the low on the intermediate time frame, just overshot resistance on the highest time frame. It's all weakening. We've had sign of weakness up here. So let's see if the Japanese yen drops off this week. 10 years now. Everybody's talking about the bond market and rates and what's happening. I don't know, this was interesting this week. Again, huge amount of trade going through, and this was the collapse down here. We had the market was holding and holding at this point here, which was the exhaustion sell type move, panic selling, and then it dropped through again down here at the lows. And yep, blue professional bars, super high average trade size, just one come in here, some blue professional bars. I don't know, it's not reversed. 10 years is not reversed. I think the 30 years looking at similar type pattern, a lot more professional bars on that one, but yeah, it's not bottomed as yet. So for me, there's no signal, clear signal there going on. But yeah, is it a worry with the 10 years? I don't know. I tend to discount the panicking type commentary that we see at these points, because a lot of times they're just trying to get you wrong-footed. So ignore that. But we'll see. Gold. Oh, gold was beauty this week. So here was our signal. So down here at the lows. So last week, less activity. So here's the beginning of the week. It's midway through the chart. So last week we had a whole bunch of blue professional bars, and I said, watch out for gold. We had a signal on there, and we came down. And then at the lows, these blue boxes are showing that these are blue professional bars buying at new lows. Let me just show you that one. Right in there. So there's a blue professional bar in there at those lows. And then we squeeze. Market's trying to decide which way to break. We have amateur bars down here testing. Bang, bang, bang. It's inverted head and shoulders type move. Blue professional bars getting the move going. Bang. They just break out at 3,000 and a bit. And this rally continues up for $200. Now you've got blue professional bars taking profits up here, so that moves over for the time being. I must admit, looking at the daily chart for gold, there's a lot of blue professional bars at those highs. Not so with silver, but gold, I'm just wondering if it's starting to get played out with all of this activity, and the activity will just move into something else that's more interesting. But gold over the last month and a half has been a good trade. This was silver, so this is last week, and it fell off a cliff. And I was in last weekend's video saying, why? What was the problem with silver? But it was probably just game down. $35. There's the blue professional bars. Super high average trade size. They continue to sell it down, and then spikes down to 28. And I think at 28 it was just a steal of people. We had Rambo patterns here. Blue professional bars coming in on the way down here. We had a signal. Then we just held and held through some squeezes. Rambo patterns. Then we break from there. And that from 28.29 to 32 has been a nice little trade. No blue professional bars taking profits at the highs yet on silver. So silver is an interesting bounce happening there. Bitcoin. Yeah, so Bitcoin was doing quite well last week, and then of course it couldn't survive the week, although it had held up. It didn't. Blue professional bars at the end of last 2 weeks prior. Yes, so this is the 13,500 tip bar chart, and this is normally the amount of activity that you see. So this is the end of the week, the beginning of the week, and then the prior week. So 2 weeks prior, we'd had blue professional bars taking profits with exhaustion buy. We test up here again, more blue professional bars, a blue box here. We get a signal short, and we just continue down. And then it wasn't blue professional bars at the lows. Yes, we had exhaustion, sullen bullish divergence, but this was just like the equities pattern. As soon as equities got bought, Bitcoin got bought, we had a little bit of a test, and then bang, rallied up. So it's been good. 84,000, 86,000 at the moment. No blue professional bars yet on Bitcoin. Maybe have a look at the Ethereum chart as well, because that's also interesting down at 1,500. But that wasn't a classic low. I think Bitcoin might be following the equities for the time being. Once we find a bottom in equities, let's see if we find a similar type pattern in Bitcoin. That'll be interesting. Crude. So crude, we had short signals. 2 weeks ago we had signs of weakness. We broke into a downtrend, and we went from $72 down to $56. Whoa. And then the professionals step in. Backgrounds in blue, blue professional down bars into the lows. Exhaustion, sold, bullish divergence. We reverse. We have a signal. We test amateur down bars into this sequence. And then blue professional bar, we rallied above that. So we're in an uptrend, stair-step trade at the moment. A little blue professional bar at the end of the week on crude. And so let's see, crude's technically in an uptrend on this highest time frame chart. So let's see if we can continue higher. Let's look at this on a better sine wave chart. We have pullback to end of trend, resistance at this highest time frame, and then support come in here. We're above resistances there. So yeah, let's crude. Let's see if that continues to rally this week. Natural gas also end of the week. Now where's the beginning of the week? So somewhere under here is oh, there we go. There we go. I'm going blind in my old age. So we go yellow on the blue. Looks a bit odd. That was the beginning of the week. That was the end of the week. So we're in a downtrend. We've got all these blue professional bars selling it down, and then they start to get interested at this level at 360, and then at 350, and then at 340. All these blue boxes. Remember, professionals leg in. They catch the low a lot of the time, but they're legging in. They're finding it more attractive here and here and here, and then eventually we get our signal. We test into these lows, amateur down bars here. So we need to get through 360, 370 to confirm we're in an uptrend here on natural gas, but that's an important low down here at 340 on natural gas. Copper, same thing. We fell off a cliff. We had sell signals up here. This area didn't catch at $5. We sold through, collapsed, following the equities markets down, and then down here at the lows, I mean, these are blue professional down bars. Yes, exhaustion, sell, bullish divergence, but not on the lows here or here or here, but maybe anxiously buying at this point here, breaking above 440, and we had a little bit of a test squeeze into that point with rallying. So we got copper in an uptrend at the moment there. And then the ags this week were spectacular. So here we go. This is corn. This week's activity, we had an early signal. We came back down last week. Blue professional bars, exhaustion, sell, come in. We break into an uptrend. Ignore this signal short because that's based on these blue professional bars here happening in the wrong place. And we've rallied up to 490, which is big. Exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, no blue professional bars at the highs yet, but that's been a good move. Background of all of this last week and a half has been red in corn. Similar things, soybeans, here we go. Big pro bars, beginning of the week, exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, amateur test down here, we get a signal, and then we have a little bit of a squeeze where everything kind of comes together. We break into an uptrend. Bang, super big move in soybeans. No exhaustion buy, no blue professional bars at the highs up there. So soybeans looking strong. Wheat, same thing, couldn't resist. Down here at the lows, blue professional bars come in. We get a signal, we test again, whole bunch of blue professional bars, Rambo patterns, exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, all happening, testing at that 520 level. We break into an uptrend, and then we get our signal, we get a confirmation breaking out of this first activity here. And yes, we're in uptrend on wheat. So the ags were pretty standout moves this week, given all the volatility that was happening in it, everything out. That and the euro was a big movers this week. So there we go. Some thoughts on the E-mini. We still need to test back down, and there'll be plenty of opportunities. So silver continue the uptrend, crude continue breaking into an uptrend. And yes, there'll be opportunities. At some point we'll have some profit taking on the Forex charts, but they haven't started to signal yet. Anyway, so there we go. Hope your trading is going well, and looking forward to next week's trade.